What is up, golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of Fairways and Dreams. I am your host, Jeff Hartman, on this Tuesday podcast where we talk about all things golf related, the latest news in the game of golf. We'll recap the Sony Open that just wrapped up as the PGA Tour is officially back underway. That's exciting news. And of course, you have to remember last week, I had a whole podcast scheduled planned, and I had to shift because that was when the news of Brooks Koepka leaving Live Golf and coming back to the PGA Tour, the PGA Tour doing the return policy. All this stuff was just crazy. And so I had to switch. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, and I was really hoping to do this before the start of the PGA Tour season, was I wanted to get my predictions for the major tournaments this year out there. And to be honest, congratulations to Chris Goddard. We'll get that out of the way. If he wins the Sony Open. Him winning last week or anyone's performance in that venue in Hawaii did not change anything as it pertains to my predictions for the upcoming season's majors. And on top of that, when you think about the major tournaments, and this is something that, a lot of people, I do the press podcast every Wednesday when there's a PGA Tour tournament coming up. There's a lot of people that have asked me, like, Jeff, what do you do in terms of your picks? Like, how do you go about trying to find winners? And it is a search, and you have to know something about the players, and you have to have a good feel for maybe how they're playing coming into that tournament. But really, you can take a third of the field, and that's where you focus. The other 2/3 can kind of just be pushed off to the side. Sure, maybe if you have like a hint or an inclination on a player to be a top 20 pick or something like that, yeah, you maybe take a flyer on that player. But most of these tournaments come down to the top third of the PGA Tour. I mean, look at last year's major tournaments. Was there any surprise winner? There was one. There was one. JJ Spaun winning at Oakmont, I got to be honest, was a surprise to a lot of people. And I would say that he did that in rather dramatic fashion. That putt that he made was phenomenal. Victor Hovland, obviously, there gave him a read. It was dramatic. It was fun. It was cool to see someone else win. But other than that, it was Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. That's not a surprise. Like, that's shooting fish in a barrel out of the other 3/4 of the major schedule. And so JJ Spaun, a lot of people said, man, this guy came out of nowhere. Not really. He was playing really good golf at the beginning of the season. People forget that it was the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass when JJ Spaun kind of stormed his way back into contention, forces a playoff with Rory McIlroy. There was a delay on Sunday. They would have finished the 3-hole playoff, but they couldn't because of darkness. So they had to come back on Monday. And JJ Spaun, he said this to the media. He was a nervous wreck, and he ends up losing to Rory McIlroy in that playoff. But he was playing decent golf, and so when he won, everyone's like, "Wow, who is this JJ Spaun guy? Where did he come from?" And he had a pretty good season if you're paying attention. So when I looked at these upcoming tournaments, the major championships starting in April with the Masters, then the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship. When it came to predictions, you're not going to see me take a lot of flyers. And it's because of the fact that the world of golf right now is unbelievably top-heavy, ridiculously top-heavy. Major tournaments, especially at the Masters, yeah, you get your Danny Willettes in there every now and then and your Zach Johnsons, but ultimately, 9 out of 10 times, this tournament is won by a player who has been there, done that, and is capable, mentally, physically capable. So, what are my predictions for who is going to win the major tournaments in 2026? Let's start with the Masters. Now, last year, we know that Rory McIlroy completed the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam, by winning the Masters, dramatic fashion, again over Justin Rose, went into extra holes. It was a lot of fun to watch that thing play out. I said it last year because remember, after every major tournament, I do my 18 thoughts after that major. And I said it in that podcast on Tuesday after the Masters, and I stand by it. I said that right then, right there, I am going to take Scottie Scheffler to win the 2026 Masters. And Scottie Scheffler, remember last year at Augusta, had an up and down tournament. There was that famous footage of him, or the picture, the image of him underneath the magnolia tree, and he's trying to figure out what to do. Like, he kind of fell apart. We're not used to seeing that. I don't think that happens again. My prediction for the Masters in 2026 is not a shocker. It is not sexy. It is Scottie Scheffler. And Scottie Scheffler, even if he's only plus 250 odds or plus 400 odds to win, I'm going to take him because I think that course and that tournament sets up perfectly for Scottie Scheffler. Again, last year, Rory did it. I think he got that monkey off his back. I think Scotty, that course, just that tournament sets up perfect for him. I think he would be winning his third Masters tournament of his career. So let's go to the PGA Championship. Scotty Scheffler won it last year. If you recall, John Rahm made a run at the very last round. He fell apart. And Scotty Scheffler, remember, he couldn't hit a fairway. He was struggling to do anything right until the back nine. He started to find some consistency. He ends up winning the PGA Championship. I don't have Scotty winning the PGA this year. I actually have Rory McIlroy winning the PGA this year. He's won several in his career. I think that last year's Masters win kind of freed him up a little bit. I think he still has a lot of good golf left. A lot of people are talking about him leaving his bladed irons that he's used to using. A lot of people really do a great job as it pertains to, tracking the clubs that these guys are using. And Rory switching it up. He's playing good golf on the DP World Tour already this season. So I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy to win the PGA Championship. Now, the U.S. Open. Last year, I mentioned it already, J.J. Spaun winning at Oakmont, dramatic fashion. We can all remember the rain delay. The course conditions were just unbelievably punishing. This year, I've got Scotty Scheffler winning. I think Scotty is good for 2 majors a year, and you'll find that to be true. And I do think that he will complete the Grand Slam of golf in 2026. Think about that. Think about how long Rory McIlroy has been at it and how long it took him to get his Grand Slam, career Grand Slam. And I'm predicting that it's going to happen in 2026 with Scotty Scheffler winning the U.S. Open. I just think that Scotty Scheffler, each and every step along the way, in my personal opinion, he has been more than willing and able to actually break those trends. Last year, the question was, well, he's never won anything but the Masters. He wins the PGA. Well, how well does he play in link style golf? He's never won in link style golf, and he goes out and wins the Open Championship. Now the cut is, well, maybe he can't handle the really difficult conditions of the U.S. Open. Sometimes he's not consistent enough off the tee. Sometimes the greens are too undulating, and his distance control is only going to help him so much because you have to make the putts, and his putter has let him down on more than one occasion. I think that just because every single step along the way, you have a situation where Scotty Scheffler is able to really turn things around and prove people wrong. I think he does it this year and wins the U.S. Open. So that leaves us the Open Championship. Again, Scotty Scheffler won it last year. He kind of ran away with the tournament on Saturday and Sunday, outside of his double bogey on the final round, where he tried to play it way too aggressive out of a fairway bunker and put it in, he double bogeyed. That was done before the weekend even started, in my opinion. I don't think Scotty wins it this year. I'm going to go with a first-time major winner, and I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood last year winning the Tour Championship means something to me. I think Tommy Fleetwood playing well at the Ryder Cup means something. Tommy Fleetwood winning on the DP World Tour means something. And Tommy Fleetwood playing in conditions that he's very accustomed to and comfortable in means something. I think Tommy Fleetwood is not only going to win this major, I think he's going to win on the PGA Tour as well. I've got Tommy Fleetwood to win his first major championship of his career, winning the Open Championship. So that would mean that for the second straight year, if my predictions are accurate, which I don't think they will be, this is just a difficult exercise, I would have Scotty Scheffler winning 2 more majors, Rory winning another major, and Tommy Fleetwood winning the Open Championship. And I think Tommy Fleetwood winning the Open, which is at the very tail end of the major season, would be an unbelievable springboard for the U.S. for not just golf in general, the PGA Tour, for the majors, all of it. It would just be a phenomenal story to see. And I'm really looking forward to this major season, which is going to be coming up quick. We're almost out of January. And once February rolls around, players are starting to head over into March. In March, they start to move to Florida and the Florida swing. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let me know what your major predictions are for this upcoming season. You can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. You can also find me on Instagram at thegolf_life. All right, let's talk about the latest news in the game of golf. There's a lot. So last week we were talking about how the PGA Tour had the return to their return policy for all these live golfers, their reinstatement to the PGA Tour and how they could get there. But it was really only for a handful of golfers. Obviously, Brooks Koepka took it. Bryson DeChambeau, Cam Smith, Jon Rahm, they were told you have until February 2nd. All the other players are not eligible to return, even if they want to. So Phil Mickelson, who was a major champion in 2021, no, not able to come back. All those players, Cam Smith, Jon Rahm, and Bryson DeChambeau, when they were in front of the live media, they all said, we're staying. But if you watch or listen to the clip, I think that's very important because you can read a quote, you could read a statement, and what you don't get is context. And if you watch that clip, then you listen to Bryson DeChambeau, who was blatantly asked, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm under contract in 2026. So we're going to play out the contract and see how it goes. That's certainly not a ringing endorsement for I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, this is where I want to be. Jon Rahm, a little bit more of a, bias towards lives, but he said, I'm not going anywhere. Just like Bryson said, I'm with Liv and this is where I'm going to be for this year. Both of these golfers left the door open for after this year, maybe I change my mind. Now for Cam Smith, he had his own little presser or media availability and looked like it was in a parking lot somewhere and said, I like he doesn't like golfing a ton, being away from his family. Live golf schedule is much lighter than the PGA Tour. He basically said, I'm fine doing what I'm doing. I'm not going anywhere. I believed him. His game is not played out well, but the other two guys, I'm not so sure. Now, reports have already started to surface that Bryson DeChambeau, because remember, his contract will end at the end of 2026 with Live Golf. There is a report that Bryson DeChambeau is asking for $500 million to stay for another 4 years. This is from Nuclear Golf on Twitter and X. Now, not only that, he doesn't just want the money because he has all the leverage in the world right now, but he also wants control over Liv's quote unquote direction. In other words, if he's going to stay for another 4 years, you have to think about where that puts him in terms of his own career. You have to think about where that puts him financially. At $500 million, he's going to be set for life. His kids and their kids will be set for life. But if he's going to stay, what's the direction of Live Golf? Don't think for a second the Brooks Koepka leaving and the PGA Tour opening up this door to return hasn't changed the way that they think about the decision that they made several years ago when Live became a thing. So will Bryson get that offer? And if he does get the offer, will he actually take it? And Bryson has openly said he doesn't need Live. He doesn't need the PGA Tour. He can play in all the majors that he wants because he's exempt because he won the U.S. Open 2 years ago. Obviously, he's played well enough in the major tournaments to be exempt for a long time. And he could do YouTube golf. And I think there's a lot of people that are out there in the golf world. They're like, this guy's just going to do a YouTube golf thing. He's making a lot of money. He is a very, very strong personality in that realm. Live golf, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need the PGA Tour either. This is going to be the guy to watch, in my opinion. I said last week, is Brooks Koepka leaving the first domino to fall? It could be. But if Bryson leaves, even if it's after this season, if Bryson DeChambeau says, you know what, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. Whether I go back to the PGA Tour or don't do anything other than YouTube golf and playing majors, I'm done. That would really, really undercut and cut out the legs from underneath Live Golf, and they would be forced to make some really difficult decisions. Because yes, you can sign Dustin Johnson to a new deal, but is he moving the needle? That's exactly what Rory McIlroy said when he was interviewed doing a DP World Tour stint in media availability, and he said, they're not signing anyone that moves the needle. So why should we care? If anything, welcome him back. Let's bring him back. Let's get the band back together, so to speak. So what Bryson does will be very fascinating. Patrick Reed, who's on Live, and he's won majors on the PGA Tour, he was asked because he is not eligible to return unless he does the entire year off, the suspension, where if he were to leave Live Golf and he has to sit out for X number of months, and then he could potentially be reinstated. He was not in that return to the PGA Tour, but he said openly that he would be open to returning to the PGA Tour. And so if the PGA Tour is hearing this, they have to ask themselves some very simple questions. First, would they want to open the door for everyone to come back if they choose? They might not want some of those players. They might not want Phil Mickelson back, even if he wants to come back. They might not want Patrick Reed back. And if they do open that door, what does that look like? What would that mean for the PGA Tour? Because now, if you're welcoming just anyone back and some of these younger, up-and-coming golfers who went to live to try and make some money immediately, if they start coming back, what does that do for the players that stayed? It's one thing to welcome Brooks Koepka back. It's one thing to welcome a Bryson DeChambeau back, a John Rahm, so to speak. Those are 3 golfers. It's easy to say to a Farmers Insurance Open or to the Waste Management Phoenix Open, we're just going to expand your field by 2 to 3 players. That's easy. It's so easy to do. It's different if there's 20 golfers wanting to come back. This is where the PGA Tour is going to have to really navigate these waters closely. Patrick Reed said he wants to come back. Will he? I don't know. We'll see. All right. The next, Chris Gotterup, congratulations to him. I said it at the top of the show. I'll say it again. He wins the Sony Open. It's his 3rd PGA Tour win. And he has proven that the conditions like wind, and they don't really affect him. For those that love the trajectory golf and the low stingers, man, he was hitting a ton of them. But not only is the wind is awesome, and we're getting ready for the American Express coming up this weekend, and they're going to be heading to California now. The Hawaii swing is very short-lived because they didn't have the first tournament that was canceled this year. I think it was a Century. Chris Gotterup wins the Sony Open, and a lot of people are now saying, what is the PGA Tour trying to do? You had, because again, it's in Hawaii, Chris Gotterup winning this tournament, and it was right in the middle of the NFL's divisional round weekend of the postseason. I'm sure ratings are awful. There weren't a lot of people there watching the tournament. The NFL competition is something that the PGA Tour should avoid at all costs. But I will say that they can do it. If they want to stay in Hawaii, hear me out here. If this is going to be if they're going to keep the Hawaii swing, and there is still talk of the 2027 PGA Tour schedule not starting until the NFL is over in February, I don't think it needs to be that drastic. In other words, what I'm suggesting is on the first 2 weekends of the year. So let's say they start it in the same week they did this year, divisional round weekend. So that's Saturday and Sunday. If it's the first tournament of the year, why can't they just flex the start date? You're not having a previous tournament. This is the first tournament. So if you said to players, we're going to alter the schedule, we are going to finish this on Friday. Why not? I mean, some might say, Jeff, that's insane. Like, why would you do that? Because you don't want to compete with them. Okay, so then if you get rid of this, you get out of this one, then let's say you go to California the following week. Okay, that's the championship weekend. We are going to finish on Saturday. We're going to flex our schedules. So we're not going head-to-head with the NFL. So the following week, you have it'd be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday finish on Saturday. They have done this before. And then the week after that is a week off, have a regular tournament. And then when it's Super Bowl weekend, give the players a week off. There is an easy way to do this without saying we're not going to have any golf televised or any golf being played on the PGA Tour until the second week in February. There is a way to do this. These people are smart. These golfers are resilient. I know they're creatures of habit, but if you say for the first tournament and the only tournament of the year, you're going to be starting on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, finish final round on Friday, then so be it. You're playing in Hawaii. The start times are for the East Coast later in the afternoon and evening. A lot of people would probably tune in. Why create a competition if you don't need to create a competition? Now, maybe there is some bylaw somewhere in the PGA Tour that states that can't happen, in which case, my apologies. I'm not reading those bylaws. I'm just thinking with my head, and also as someone that covers the NFL, and say that if they want to have a solution to competing with the NFL, then don't. Structure things so it won't compete. So again, this past week, they would have finished on Friday. The following week, they finish on Saturday with the championship weekend. The week after, you have a regular Thursday to Sunday tournament. You're competing with the Pro Bowl. No one cares about the Pro Bowl. Okay? So you finish on a Sunday, and then the following week, which is Super Bowl Sunday, you just don't have a tournament. Don't do a tournament. Take the week off, and then the following week, you get back after it, and then you're smooth sailing for the rest of the year. I just don't think that it has to be as drastic a change as some people are making it out to be. I don't know. I might be wrong. I've been wrong before, and that's fine, but those are just my thoughts. All right, that does it for me on this Fairways and Dreams podcast. I will be back tomorrow with a press podcast, and this Thursday, my buddy Dan from Leave the Pin is going to join me for our January mixtape podcast. So we've got 3 coming at you this week. I hope you are ready. Buckle up. We'll have everything for you. Make sure you check out the Golfer Gang Network at golfergang.com. That does it for me. You know, we finished up. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the press podcast. Take it easy.